What's the toughest car in the world? A Toyota Helix? Maybe a Volvo 240? Or perhaps a battle-ready Humvee? Well, what if I told you that the most indestructible car ever made might just be a humble, unassuming Russian sedan? No, I'm not talking about some military-grade armored vehicle. I'm talking about a car that's been drowned, set on fire, dropped from a crane, and even blown up. And it still started. This is the insane story of the Lada Riva, also known as the VAZ-2107, the Lada Riva. First produced in the Soviet Union in 1982, was essentially a modernized version of the Fiat 124 from the 1960s. It was basic, boxy, and built with one thing in mind: simplicity. In the harsh conditions of the Soviet Union, you needed a car that was easy to fix with a hammer and a wrench, not one that required a computer to diagnose. The body was made of thick steel, the engine was a simple carbureted four-cylinder, and the interior was, well, let's just say, functional is a compliment. There were no airbags, no anti-lock brakes, and certainly no infotainment system. It was pure, unadulterated, mechanical transportation. For decades, the Lada was the butt of countless jokes in the West. It was seen as a symbol of Soviet inefficiency and poor quality. And to be fair, they weren't exactly known for their refined driving experience or luxurious appointments. They rusted, they rattled, and they were painfully slow. But underneath that questionable exterior lay a secret weapon, an almost comical level of durability. These cars were designed to traverse unpaved Siberian roads, withstand extreme temperatures, and keep running on questionable quality fuel. Owners didn't just drive them. They abused them, and the Lada just kept on going. So, how did this humble Russian car earn the title of indestructible? The legend really took off thanks to a certain British motoring show. You probably know the one. Back in the early 2000s, the host decided to buy a used Lada Riva for £1,000 and put it through a series of quality control tests to see just how much punishment it could take. And this is where things get truly unbelievable. First, they simulated a lifetime of wear and tear. They drove it into walls, scraped it along barriers, and even had a professional stunt driver perform high-speed J-turns and handbrake slides until the tires blew out. They then replaced the tires with spares ... kept going. The car was battered and bruised, but the engine, it ran perfectly. Next, they decided to test its resilience against the elements. They filled the cabin with water, completely submerging the dashboard and seats, and left it overnight. The next morning, they drained it, and after a few sputters, the engine fired right back up. The electronics were fried, but the core mechanics were untouched. They even drove it with a lion in the back seat, just because they could. The lion was unimpressed, but the car didn't seem to mind. But they were just getting started. The next phase was fire. They literally set the car on fire. Flames engulfed the engine bay and the interior. After the fire department put it out, the car was a charred, melted wreck. The interior was gone, the paint was bubbled and blackened. Surely this was the end. But they put a new battery in, turned the key, and incredibly, the engine started. It coughed and spluttered, but it ran. Okay, so it can survive a crash, a flood, and a fire. What's next? How about a demolition ball? They took the poor Lada to a demolition site and repeatedly smashed it with a giant iron ball. The roof caved in, the doors were crushed, and the body was mangled beyond recognition. It looked like a crushed soda can. The team declared it officially dead. There was no way it could survive this. They towed the flattened carcass back to their workshop for a final, ceremonial farewell. Just for a laugh, one of the presenters decided to try the key one last time. He reached into the mangled wreck, turned the ignition, and the entire crew stood in stunned silence as the engine it actually started. The little Russian engine, buried deep within a twisted ball of metal, fired into life as if nothing had happened. It was the automotive equivalent of a movie monster that just refuses to die. The final test was the most extreme. They rigged the car with explosives and placed it on top of a 240-foot-tall chimney stack at a soon-to-be-demolished power plant. The plan was to detonate the chimney, sending the Lada plummeting to the ground in a blaze of glory. The explosion went off, the chimney crumbled, and the Lada disappeared into a cloud of dust and debris. When the dust settled, all that was left was a pile of rubble. The team searched through the wreckage and, against all odds, found what was left of the car. It was unrecognizable. It was less a car and more a modern art installation made of scrap metal. There was no way, absolutely no way, it could have survived. But they had to know. They located the engine block in the debris, hooked up a fuel line and a battery, and cranked it. And in the most legendary, jaw-dropping moment of the entire series, the engine started. It ran. After being dropped from a 240-foot exploding chimney, the heart of the Lada was still beating. So why was it so tough? It's a testament to its simple, over-engineered Soviet design. There were no complex computer systems to fail. The engine was a basic, robust iron block with very few points of failure. The ignition system was so primitive that as long as it had fuel, air, and a spark, it would run. It was a machine built for a world without reliable repair shops, where the driver had to be their own mechanic. The Lada Riva finally ceased production in 2012 after a 30-year run. Millions were sold across Eastern Europe, the UK, and even Canada. While it will never win any awards for beauty, speed, or comfort, it has earned a permanent place in automotive history as a true survivor. It's a reminder that sometimes the most advanced technology isn't what makes something great. Sometimes it's just good old-fashioned toughness and simplicity. So the next time you see an old, boxy Lada rattling down the road, don't laugh. Give it a nod of respect. You're looking at a car that has stared into the face of fire, flood, and demolition and simply refused to die. You're looking at what might just be the most indestructible car ever made. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this piece of automotive history, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more stories. See you next time.